Hello everybody and welcome to the Island Q&A video, because the Island series is done now. So that's pretty crazy. That's wild actually. It's been I've been working on that for like 2.5 years at this point. It's insane that it's done now. Here's some questions from the community about different stuff. Some of them are from the comments of the most recent episode of the Island where I was like, hey, anyone got questions? There was also a really short video from like 1.5 years ago that I was like, hey, questions for a mid-campaign Q&A that I did not end up doing, but I still have some questions from that ready. And also there's like 1 or 2 from the community posts. So we got questions from all over the places here already ready to go. And I should just stop talking and start doing this because I will get sidetracked talking about like ferrets or something if I don't. Ferrets are really, really cool. Like, no, we're gonna stay on topic. I can talk about ferrets later though. Maybe I'll make a whole video about ferrets. Ferrets are so cool. Right, on topic. First question. This whole campaign got horribly derailed at some point, didn't it? Yeah, well, kind of. In a way, there were 2 main points that they were sort of derailing, and one of them was less of a derail and more of speeding further along the rail than I thought they were going to. First one, as mentioned in the actual comment, is the near TPK, whenever almost everybody in the party died. That was not expected, or something I'd planned in any way, shape, or form. And honestly, when that happened, that was gonna be the end of the campaign right there. Whenever almost everyone died, Jay got out with like 1 hit point. I was like, and to end the session, I was like, so that was the end of the Island campaign, I guess. But then the players were all like, what? No, we want to like keep going. We were like, all the stuff was starting to like get spicy now. Like things were happening. What are you talking about? So we kept going. We got all the new characters, we introduced them, and we kind of tied everything back into the plot pretty well by kicking off like the apocalypse in the next session essentially. So everything started going a lot faster and the new characters sort of melded in a lot better than I thought they would, and the campaign managed to finish pretty well, honestly. But that was definitely one of the bigger derailing points that I wasn't expecting. And the other one, the one that was sort of a derailing, sort of not, was when the party used trash or treasure to insta-kill the dragon towards the end of the campaign. I forgot that they had a mech dragon that I gave them the previous session, so they flew in, they absolutely murdered this dragon, and then went to the final boss fight, and I had not prepped the final boss fight. If you're a long-time viewer, you might notice that there's a running theme to my campaigns. The amount of times I just have not prepped a final boss fight, and I've just had to make it up in the session, is almost every campaign. At this point, I don't know how many boss fights I've actually prepped versus the amount that I've made up on the fly. Because I thought the dragon fight was going to be like, oh, this is going to be a big crazy 2-hour fight or something, and then they were like, nope, they're dead in 2 rounds because fire breath, and I'm like, oh, come on, oh no. So then they went to the void, and I originally planned for there to be a massive dungeon and stuff in the void and have it be like a few sessions in there. I didn't know how to make up a dungeon at the time. I wasn't gonna like try to just come up with a dungeon on the fly, so I was like, alright, final boss fight time. It'll be rad, it's gonna be cool, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I really liked the fighting corrupted versions of old PCs, if you can't tell by this campaign, because they did that a lot. We did that a lot of times here. And I really loved bringing back, what was his name? Bringing back Thok the Scrumdiddlyumptious back from, I believe there's one episode still up on the channel called The Barbarian Chef or something like that, which actually talks about this character a little bit, but it was from one of the very first 5e campaigns I ran, and it was just such a notable character to kind of everyone that was in my group in high school and played that, and it was kind of just like really cool for all of us to see that character come back and having an explanation for the really weird way they died, where they followed a time-traveling version of the big bad from another campaign into a weird mega dungeon under a city that didn't exist in any other campaigns. The mega dungeon wasn't there in any other campaigns, so that's cool. And then some weird shadowy thing showed up, said, I've killed gods, and then murdered Thok because Thok kept surviving against every other ridiculous encounter I was throwing at him at that point because he had no way of teleporting out. And I'm like, bruh, now it's just this one character going through this big dungeon while all the other players are like, yeah, so, how about that? How about that weather? That's pretty conversation worthy, am I right, my fellow humans? I mean, okay, it was more fun than that, obviously. Everyone was invested. We were like, oh my god, what's gonna happen to Thok here and stuff, but it was like, we ended up just, he got killed by a random shadow god. So I was like, I gotta bring that back to explain why that's all happening, because this was the last big campaign I ran for that group as well, so it was sort of the finale of that big series of arcs that I'd been running for all the campaign stuff, and then going into the next campaign I'll be animating soon, the Slipgate, is sort of the start of the new era of the setting, and there's definitely some stuff from the old one that keeps going, like there's a lot of through lines that keep going, such as there's a few really old NPCs that are briefly mentioned in some old stories that are coming back. A lot of the main setting stuff is going to go forward, some other NPCs and things like that are going to continue, but it sort of starts a lot of new narrative arcs instead of just wrapping up all the old ones like the last campaign was for. And that's now entirely off topic, and we're already very far into the video, so I'm just going to move on to the next question. I'm currently running a level 8 party, and I was wondering if I could use the Stitchwraith for them, or if its CR is too high for a level 8 party. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you, I do not remember what level the Stitchwraith was. I think I just pulled up a Scarecrow stat block from a Pathfinder, buffed it up to like a bigger number, and then was like, this is its stats, I guess. And then I just kind of made up abilities on the fly. That's what I'd recommend doing for most of your enemies, honestly. Just find something of a similar level, and then just rename it and retexture all the stuff. I don't know, making full stat blocks is way too much work for me. I'm too lazy for that, especially for something that's going to be seen once. I might make some stat blocks for certain monsters from this campaign and release them somewhere so people can have them, because I think it could be cool to make that and have people be able to use these. But currently, I've got no clue. I just kind of made it up on the fly, which I do with a lot of stuff, which is going to be relevant in a later question. But I have them in a different order on here, and if I start skipping questions around in order, I'm gonna lose where I am and it's gonna be a problem. So, next one is, what were your inspirations for the island itself? Alright, this is my third try at answering this question, because I got derailed immediately every time, within the first sentence. So, the Eldritch Dimension was inspired by this one region from a medieval. So the Eldritch Dimension was the void place that Alinar was not technically from, because he was actually from Earth. Well, not Earth. Arkayes is the name of my world. And he found a portal into the Eldritch Dimension, and then he got corrupted and all that stuff, and that was pretty rad. But the actual setting there was inspired by this one level from a medieval, which is a fantasy boomer shooter game that's really cool. Solid recommend. I had a lot of fun with it. And typically the levels in that game are split up into like 3 different mini levels within each region, but one of the regions was instead just one massive level, and it was this giant forge in an endless void planet thing drilling down into the depths of it. And that really was just really cool. I just thought that was super neat, so I was thinking, okay, what if I took that and put it in my campaign world? What would it be? What would they be mining? What would it be doing? And it sort of just slowly spiraled from there. I was then thinking, oh, something similar to like the Strogg from Quake 4 could be really cool, with the Eldritch being this sort of metal that you can use to convert people into cyborg soldier-esque things. I didn't know about the Cybermen at the time, but it's kind of like the way modern Doctor Who does Cybermen, which I have issues with the way modern Doctor Who does Cybermen, but that's also a different thing, and I will get off topic again, so we're gonna keep it laser focused for this video. Me rambling on random stuff? Never, ever. Yeah, I don't know if that answered that part of the question, but the other thing that I could think of for inspirations was the bank robbery in episode 5, which Jay's dad, Emra Scarfeathers, I remembered it. Hey, I can, if I find a way I could cut this in post to make it seem like I totally knew what the name of this was and didn't have to sit there for like a minute thinking about it. But whatever. So the bank robbery in episode 5 was essentially just a magic version of Money Heist. The show on Netflix, Money Heist, or La Casa de Papel, which is the better name, and I hate the name Money Heist, but I had just watched that before running those sessions, and I just kind of decided, what if that happened? And the players actually interacted with the heist a lot more in the actual campaign. They had a whole thing where they were working with the guards to try to stop them and things like that, and doing some communication, stuff like that, but I ended up cutting it from the series because it was kind of would have been me explaining the plot of Money Heist again, and I'm like, Money Heist already exists, and it would have gotten really off topic, and I kind of wish I had done more of that stuff because there is some really insane moments during those conversations and such, but it would have expanded the series by, like, I guess probably only one episode, but it would have been a long time for this. That would have just been me explaining Money Heist, so yeah. But most of my inspirations are kind of just whatever media I'm consuming at the time, I end up putting into my campaigns. You can usually tell what part of the campaign I'm going back into my FNAF phase for, because suddenly they're fighting Clockwork Freddy Fazbear inside a diner or something, because every campaign I run has to have one FNAF session. That's the rule, there's always the FNAF session. If you haven't seen the FNAF session yet of each campaign as I'm animating them, know that it's gonna happen. And on to the next question, will you still try to create a small game with your pixel art? Yes, I'm actually really busy with college recently, which has been annoying, so I haven't been able to get a project out, but I am hoping to get one done at some point for a game. I had one partially done a few years ago that I was actually kind of happy with and just kind of needed to tweak a bit, fix a few bugs, and finish making all the levels and content, but then Unity decided it was going to update its terms of service. Was it terms of service? I can't remember if it was terms of service or just other stuff with the program. Started making some questionable decisions for its developers, and I jumped ship real fast. But the cool thing about using a game engine is it's really hard to just port everything into a new one, so I had to kind of just kill that game and go learn a new game engine entirely to start coding again with it. And I'm starting to learn Godot right now, but getting the motivation to learn a new game engine and create a game is so much harder than just, oh, I want to go create a game, and then you go start working on an engine you already know. But programming's super fun, so I'll probably get into that at some point here because I want to program more. Programming's really rad, but yeah. And next question, can you detail your setting in general? It seems super cool. First, thanks, I really appreciate that. I put a lot of work into the setting, and I kind of do, but most of the work honestly comes from the actual sessions, and then I have to take the things I said in the session and somehow make them work with the rest of the world, because I'm really bad at preparing ahead of time. The entire Thief Lord's Court, I made that all up in the session it was being explained to them. I had to just make all that up because I didn't expect them to ask about the political system. I was like, oh no, how does this work? Why? And I think in this web serial called Practical Guide to Evil, there was this thieves guild or something where the whole thing is whoever steals the crown from whoever's in charge is the new leader. And I thought that was just such a neat concept, so I just kind of yoinked that, put it in here, and was like, that's the setting, I guess, or the political system. But yes, I do occasionally talk about stuff from the setting over on Twitch while I'm streaming Minecraft, because I'm doing a thing where I'm trying to build my Minecraft world in D&D, or the other way around. I'm trying to build my D&D world in Minecraft. So yeah, if you ever want to check those out, you can get little snippets of lore, or if you don't want to watch streams, I am going to be cutting them down into little clips of, oh, this is a part where I'm talking about lore. I'm gonna cut it down, upload it on my second channel called Toast Thief Live, and then you can sort of just catch up on stuff there. You don't have to watch the full streams, you can just sort of watch those and get all the fun parts. Well, most of the fun parts. I'm sure there's fun things that are happening on the stream that I don't end up cutting up, but you can get most of it there, because I totally get it. I don't watch a lot of streams, because I'm bad at paying attention to things for long periods of time. But I love watching clips from streams. I also might potentially release some write-ups of stuff on Patreon in the future if that's a thing that people would be interested in. And now on to the second to last question. How far and into what detail do you plan out your campaigns, and how much is improvised? If you can't tell from the rest of this Q&A, I don't plan very much. Like, very little. At the start of a campaign, what I do is I open up a document, and I just write down as many cool ideas for a scene or adventure as I can, make a big list of stuff that I think is neat, that I think could be cool to throw in somewhere. Just anything I think. Doesn't have to fit in any way, I just write down a big list of stuff. And then from there, I sort of pick the things I like most, I rip them out of the document, put them as the main things I want to hit and achieve in the campaign, and then I go for it. And then, other than that, I sort of just prep each session one at a time, and sort of try to work the other main plots I've written down into it at some point. And otherwise, I make up a lot of stuff. I I'm a very seat-of-the-pants GM. I tend to prep my games in a very improv-y way where I know what the NPCs like to do, and I have a general vibe of the next session, but otherwise I'm just going to see where the players go and how they interact with people, and then since I have the NPCs prepped and the sort of world stuff going on, I can sort of improvise to tie into whatever the players are doing, and set it up in a way that it's not like, oh, I've prepped this big dungeon and the party went the other way, what am I going to do? My mind just blanked for a solid minute here thinking about ferrets. Ferrets are really cool animals. I don't know how many of you know about ferrets. I know a lot of people think they are just big rats. They're not rats, they're actually mustelids, which is a type of carnivore. They are very much not rats, very different animals. They're very high maintenance animals. They are definitely lifestyle pets, which you need to, adapt your lifestyle for, and that is entirely irrelevant. I need to stop turning this into a conversation about ferrets. A conversation that just includes me and whoever you are listening to this. Well, it's not really included, you're just gonna listen to me talk about ferrets, which is a lot like my real life conversations too, I suppose. So yeah, I make up a lot of improv stuff, tend to not prep a lot of things. I like to write a bunch of ideas I have down just in little bullet points and then kind of see where they go, and if I get a chance to pull one of those in, I do it because I love having a sort of roadmap, but not knowing the specific route planned out on the roadmap yet. Some of my favorite moments have come from stuff I've planned out, but also some of my favorite sessions have been when the party just decides to do something weird. In early Island, there was the one session where they decide they're just going to try to help Blinsky's store by vandalizing a different poster advertising a different restaurant and change it to be advertising Blinsky's store. I believe it was episode 3, and that was just so cool. That was so fun. That is, to date, one of my favorite sessions I've ever ran, because that was entirely unexpected, but it makes sense for the players to do that with the information they had available, and it's just such a cool thing to work with the players to create a story by putting a bunch of pieces in front of them and letting them put them together, and that's just super fun. And now the final question is, what happened to Ranthorn, Malvira, and Jack at the end of the campaign? I'm so glad you asked. I don't know who this toast thief person is, but they had a really, really good question here. So, what they were doing there after they gave the compass to Jay in episode 19, I want to say it was 19. It was the one where they went up and started the apocalypse. So in that session, whenever they gave the compass to the party went to get the Thief Lord's crown. So Sulcira was distracted sending her guards to go deal with that, meaning that she moved her guards away from an old abandoned academy base on the northeast section of the map, which Jack, since Jack is a character who used to work with the academy, and this Jack was actually the same character with green eyes who attacked the Dragonfangs party back in one of those episodes where they got attacked by the big academy clockwork thing in Boatlandia. This is the same character from that. This person has been around for a long time, and he used to work for the academy. So he knew about this old academy base where these three characters snuck into now that the guards were gone. He had a way of actually unlocking it because he had the access codes. They got in, they found a teleport key, and teleported off of the island. They are, to date, the only group of people to have ever left the island. And what ended up happening is when they teleported, it was only like a second for them, but about 20 years passed for the rest of the world before they actually got to their location, because timey-wimey stuff, I guess. And whenever they landed, they were back in the outside of the island world, and now that they had gotten off the island, they sort of split up the group, they all went their own ways. So Jack continues to hunt down academy technology that's fallen into the wrong hands, and doing his general stuff of showing up into a campaign with a gun and being real chaotic and scaring the players. Meanwhile, Malvira went to get revenge on the people who had killed her father and sister and everyone else in her family. She's real angry about that. So she went off to go get revenge. Meanwhile, Ranthorn transitioned and renamed herself to Rhaenyra Thorngrove. Then she began to research a mysterious set of magical relics known as the Nightmare Obelisks. But that is a story for another day, and that day is not the Slipgate. It's not related to the Slipgate very much, but it is going to be related to future content at some point. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that when it gets uploaded, and if you somehow watch this video without knowing anything about the island, I have a link to a playlist in the doobly-doo or on the screen right now, and otherwise I will see you in the next video.